There is a man standing before a mirror. Not the kind that hangs in bathrooms or dressing rooms. This mirror is older, something that exists in the space between waking and dreaming. He stands still, very still, the way people do when they're not certain of what they're about to discover. He knows this face. He has shaved it, groomed it, presented it to the world for decades. This is the face that smiles at colleagues, that nods with feigned interest at dinner parties, that has learned precisely how to arrange itself into expressions of sympathy, confidence, or concern. It is a well-maintained face, a respectable face. But in the mirror, something is different. The reflection blinks, and it is not quite him, or rather it is entirely him, but without the editing, without the careful curation. The smile is still there, that same smile, but it has become something else. Wider, perhaps. More honest. The eyes are bright, with an intelligence that seems divorced from kindness, from restraint, from whatever invisible leash we call conscience. He wants to look away, but he cannot. This is his moment of confrontation, though he doesn't yet understand that mirrors are not meant to reflect only light. They are meant to show everything, the beautiful and the abominable, often wearing the same skin. The reflection smiles at him. It is not a threat. It is a recognition. Carl Jung understood something that most people spend their entire lives denying, that within each of us exists a shadow, not a metaphor, not poetry, an actual psychological reality, a repository of everything we refuse to see in ourselves. The shadow is not born from trauma or abuse or neglect, though these things may deepen it. The shadow is born the moment we are told that we cannot be something. We cannot be angry. We cannot be selfish. We cannot be cruel. We cannot be indifferent to the suffering of others. And so, like water seeking the lowest ground, these disowned aspects of ourselves sink downward into the darkness of the unconscious mind. There they collect, they accumulate, they fester, not because they are inherently evil, but because they are denied. The psyche abhors rejection of its own contents. It is like telling a part of your body that it does not exist. It does not disappear. It merely learns to scream where no one can hear. We build walls against our shadow. We construct elaborate philosophies to prove we are good. We perform goodness so convincingly that we eventually believe our own performance. We donate to charities and post about our values, and speak harshly of cruelty when we witness it in others, all while the shadow grows heavier in the depths, collecting everything we have forbidden ourselves to feel. Most people die without ever truly meeting their shadow. They go to their graves convinced of their own essential decency, never realizing that decency can be a form of denial. That morality can be a mask worn so skillfully that the wearer forgets there is a face beneath it. But sometimes, in a moment of clarity, or perhaps clarity is not the right word, perhaps it is a moment of crack in the facade, a person is forced to see, to truly see. We have created an elaborate mythology around the concept of good people. We tell ourselves that goodness is something you either have or you don't, that it is a stable quality, a fixed point on the moral compass. But this is a convenient lie. Goodness is performance. Not performance in the theatrical sense, though there is certainly an element of that, but performance in the deeper sense. It is the result of constant, often unconscious negotiation between what we want to do and what we believe we ought to do, between what we are capable of feeling and what we are permitted to feel. Think of the man who gives generously to the poor while harboring contempt for their weakness. Think of the woman who champions kindness while poisoning relationships with her indifference. Think of the parent who sacrifices for their child while resenting every moment of it. They are not hypocrites in the simple sense. They have simply become skilled at compartmentalization. They have learned to keep the shadow so deeply buried that it occasionally screams, and they barely notice the sound. We live in a world that rewards this fragmentation. We are encouraged to emphasize only the light, to deny the dark. We are praised for our virtues and punished for any hint of what lies beneath them. And so we learn to hide with remarkable efficiency. A man cuts someone off in traffic and feels a flash of rage so pure it shocks him, but only for a moment. He quickly frames it as justified irritation. A woman notices the misfortune of her rival and feels a satisfaction so genuine it frightens her, but only for an instant. She recontextualizes it as simple schadenfreude, a common weakness. A person witnesses injustice and feels, beneath the appropriate outrage, a small thrill at the drama of it, at being witness to tragedy. They push this down so far, they forget they felt it at all. These are not signs of sickness. These are signs of normalcy. This is what ordinary people do. This is what good people do. They are not villains. They are simply human. And to be human is to contain contradictions so profound that they can only be managed through forgetting. The reflection in the mirror knows this. It smiles because it understands the joke that we have all become expert liars, and the most perfect lie is the one we tell ourselves. There comes a moment in some lives, rare moments perhaps, but they do come, when the machinery of denial begins to fail, when the cracks become too wide to ignore. It is not usually a dramatic moment. It does not feel like awakening. It feels like sickness. A man realizes that when he comforts someone in pain, he is not moved by their suffering. He is moved by his own performance of compassion. He can observe himself performing the role and feel a strange satisfaction at doing it well. This is a disturbing recognition. He wishes he had not seen it. A woman notices that she feels little to nothing in situations where she is supposed to feel empathy. She can recognize that another person is in distress and respond appropriately, but it is like reading a script. The emotion is not there, or it is there so faintly that she cannot distinguish it from pretense. And she must ask herself, is this a failure of character or a failure of feeling? And is there a meaningful difference? Perhaps most disturbing of all, a person realizes that the cruelty they have always condemned in others, they are capable of. More than capable. In certain moments, under certain conditions, they can imagine themselves committing acts that horrify them to contemplate. And the scariest part is not that they could do these things. The scariest part is that they do not feel like such an alien version of themselves when they contemplate it. This is the beginning of true psychological honesty, not the beginning of becoming a bad person, the beginning of seeing that the line between good and bad is not where we thought it was, that we are not standing safely on the good side of some great divide, that we are all far closer to the darkness than we admit. The man in the mirror stops pretending to be troubled by his reflection's smile. He understands now what he has been refusing to see. The reflection is not an enemy. It is not a demon that has invaded his soul. It is himself, all of himself. The part that would like to hurt, that resents, that hungers for power, that feels indifference, that takes pleasure in others' pain, all of this is him. And the recognition of this does not make him evil. It makes him aware. For the first time, truly aware. Integration is not victory over the shadow. There is no vanquishing. There is only the moment when you stop lying to yourself about what you are. The man and his reflection were never separate. They were always the same person, divided only by the wall of denial he had built so carefully, so convincingly, that he forgot there was a wall at all. And when you truly see this, when you accept that you contain both the capacity for cruelty and kindness, that you are capable of anything. Something shifts, not morally, psychologically. Because here is what most people never understand. Accepting your shadow does not make you a bad person. It makes you a conscious person. And consciousness is far more dangerous than unconscious evil could ever be. You still wear the mask. You still perform goodness. But now you do it differently. You do it knowing what you are doing. There is a kind of freedom in this honesty that the unconscious pretender will never know. You no longer need your mask to prove you are good, because you have stopped demanding that you be purely good. And in relinquishing that demand, you become something more interesting, more honest, more truly ethical perhaps, because your ethics are no longer rooted in denial. The man looks at his reflection one final time. It is smiling still. But now he understands. The smile is not a threat. It is a mirror held up to the self you have been refusing to meet. It is not demonic. It is simply true. And the horror, the real horror, is not that we are monsters in disguise. The horror is that we have always known this truth, somewhere deep beneath the careful construction of our personas. We have always felt the shadow move within us. We have always heard its voice. We simply learned very early to call it something else, to call it impulse, or weakness, or temptation, to call it anything but what it actually deserves, ourselves. The reflection fades. The mirror becomes only a mirror again. But the man knows now. It has always shown him exactly what he was. And he was always the one looking back. There is no escape from this knowledge now. There is only integration, only acceptance, only the difficult, terrifying freedom of knowing yourself completely and choosing to live anyway.